Hey everybody, Mike Toy here with Bonsai Boise. So I'm going to make a video about some of my Schefflera trees. This one I call Sheffy. You can see it's got some really cool character. It started off, it came out of a clump about 5 years ago. And it's the only piece that actually remained. It's got, I don't even know what I would call the trunk style. It's almost like a triple trunk that comes up into one main trunk and then out to triple trunks again. And then it's got all kinds of aerial roots all over it. So cool character on this one. And today I'm going to give it just a little haircut and trim it up and get it back into shape a little bit. I might someday, that aerial root right there kind of bugs me. I might reposition that, but otherwise I like the way it looks. It's kind of like a big wise beard or something. And I got this by doing the clear plastic bag trick. So I just put a clear plastic bag over it, spray some water in there to keep it humid, and out comes the aerial roots. This one I've actually had longer than any other Schefflera. We moved offices in my work about 6 or 7 years ago, and somebody just had it as an office plant and said, "Hey, do you want this plant?" I said, "Sure." So I took it. Didn't even know what it was. Did a little research, figured out what it was. But I'm not at all happy with it right now. It's had a rough summer, didn't grow very well, but that's not what I'm unhappy about. I don't know where I'm going with it. It was kind of a raft style, kind of a lean style. It's kind of a little of both and a little of neither. It's a little out of shape. Luckily though, see if you notice those two top branches again here in a second, you'll see that there's some options there. I don't know what this white stuff is, so I'm going to spray it with some fungicide. I don't know if that's a little bit of calcium residue just from water or if it's like powdery mildew. I'm not sure. But if you see these two branches on the top, kind of like antlers or something, kind of makes it out of shape. So I might stand it up. I'm going to repot this one, to make a long story short. I don't like the pot it's in right now. I don't like the position it's in. I'm just not happy with it. And then also we're going to take a look at this. This is where I stick Schefflera cuttings. Every time I make cuttings, I root them and put them in here. I did a video on this a few years ago. I just took a dozen or so Schefflera cuttings that I had, put them all in this big pot. So let's start with Sheffy. As I'm doing some trimming here, I'll tell you some pros and cons from my point of view with Scheffleras. Pros are, they're tough, they're very durable. Aside from cold, they do not like cold. If they experience frost, they die. Pretty much no forgiveness there at all. But on the pros side, they root well from cuttings. You can take cuttings very easily. I've noticed that you can get away with keeping them on the drier side, and they like water, so there's a big forgiveness scale there. You can do a lot with them. There's a ton of styles you can do, formal upright or anything to this. As you can see, the couple Scheffleras I've shown so far, I don't even know what style to call them. They're just kind of their own thing. They're flexible. I haven't wired them too much, but in my experience, they're flexible to a point. They're very bendy, but then kind of without warning, they just sort of will snap on you. So you got to keep that in mind and be a little careful. On the cons side, they sort of do whatever they want in terms of trimming and style. So unlike a maple or an elm or even a ficus for, the clip and grow doesn't really work with them. If you clip down to the last leaf set, for example, you would expect 2 branches to sprout from there. Now a Schefflera, maybe 1, maybe 4. maybe 0. They just do whatever they want, and they might go in the complete opposite direction that the bud was facing, that you thought the bud was facing at least. So it's a little unpredictable, which direction they're going to grow, which I say it's a con, but it's kind of a cool little rebellious character that they have, I think. All in all, they're a lot of fun. And to be honest, they're pretty cheap. You can buy them in, a big clump style. You can buy them in stores for, 30, 40 bucks. But you have to know what you're looking for because, as you saw a minute ago where I stick all my cuttings, they just look like a big unruly house plant. I'll show you again. So if you're just in a store and you go by the plant section, you see this, you probably wouldn't even look twice. You go, it's an ugly house plant. So you kind of have to know what you're looking for and then sort of dig around in there just to see what the roots and the base looks like. But you can find some really cool clumps, and I've done it many times. I have several videos out there where I've trimmed them down. As for this clump style, I'm really not putting hardly any thought at all into where I'm cutting. The styling will come later. Right now, I'm just trying to get it dense and thick and fill it full of cuttings. And maybe 5 or 10 years down the road, there'll be something cool to work with in there. Yeah, I could go to the store and buy one for 30 bucks or 40 bucks, but it's kind of cool to make your own too. I gotta do something with the cuttings. I could throw them away, I guess. But we all know I'm not gonna do that. So here's a look inside. Some aerial roots starting to form. Still a lot of room in there for cuttings. So I won't spend a ton of time looking at this. I'm just kind of showing what I do with some of the cuttings. So here's some that I've rooted from who knows when. Just gonna almost give no thought at all as to where they go. I just need a little room to put them. I'll dig out a little spot, take them out of this cup, shove them in there, put this big pot wherever it goes, and then move on with life. And then we'll repot my other Schefflera, the one that I can't figure out what to do with. So that's pretty much it right there as far as like how to deal with the cuttings. So moving on to this guy. I don't have a name for him yet. So I don't like the pot that it's in. I don't like the style that it's doing. It's sort of a raft style slash informal upright at the other end. Not doing either of them particularly well. So first we'll give it just a little trim. It's got a lot of potential. It's not as if it's a lost cause or anything. Got some cool movement there, but you see these little leaves down there at the bottom? So because of that, I think I'm going to take both of these little antler branches down to those leaf sets. There's 1 and 2. It already looks a little better, I think. And I think I want to stand it up a little straighter. The challenge here, if I cut it right there, is that the roots are spread out like a raft style. This is the pot I'm going to use here. Got some screens in there. I'm going to put a little gravel at the bottom. I immediately messed up where the screens were. I have to turn off the camera for a second and fix it. The soil is just my normal mix of pine bark, perlite, safety absorb, and a little bit of volcanic rock. So back to the challenge here. Since the roots are spread out so far, standing it upright won't work the way it is. So I'm going to end up cutting some of that root base off, which will also shorten the tree, which is not a terrible thing. You don't want a big, long, straight trunk with no leaves or branches on it. Looks kind of goofy. I expected this to be pot bound because I potted it up about 2 years ago and it's not done great. So I thought that was the issue. But as I pulled it out, I was kind of surprised. It was not at all root bound. The soil was still pretty crumbly. Sometimes it'll clump up, unbeknownst to you, what's going on under the soil. Sometimes it just clumps up, but that wasn't the case either. So I really don't know what the problem was this year. It didn't grow very well. Not sure what the issue is, but anyways, I got it all cleaned out. It's got some healthy roots, not a ton, but some. So yeah, it's a mystery. The roots that were coming out of the bottom of the pot, turns out, were from that aerial root. I'll trim that back down to shape. Now, as for the trunk, because of the raft style, it had a little bit of reverse taper, right? And I'll show you here in 1 second. And then I'll show you how I'm going to fix that reverse taper. But first, I guess I'm going to wrestle these aerial roots into a different position, because that was another challenge that I was facing, is standing it upright, stretched out those aerial roots a little too far. So I'm going to pull them back to the front so that hopefully they'll reach. And then if you can see right there, that will it'll solve two problems. One, right below that, if you notice that black spot as soon as I move my hand here, that black spot right there is where that reverse taper kind of stops and starts. So I want to bring the soil line up to there, so that way, A, you won't see the reverse taper, and B, the bottom part will kind of work as an anchor since it's a deeper pot. Not typically what you would do in bonsai. You kind of want a flat root plane, but in this case, I'm putting it in a deeper pot because I want it to grow healthily, because it did not have a good growing season. So that's sort of my plan. Do a little bit of wrestling here with these aerial roots just to get them in there. It felt a little counterproductive. I worked so hard to get aerial roots on some of these trees. Out here in Idaho, it's very dry, and to get aerial roots, you need humidity. So it was really hard. It took me a while. Then I figured out the bag trick, and I got them on a lot of trees. Scheffleras, ficuses, a whole bunch. So I think I can do it again if I need to. I did decide to wire in this tree. Forgot to mention that, but you may have noticed as I was pouring the soil in initially, I had wires set up. I don't normally wire my trees in, but this one I did because it had the little wire holes, and also I thought it was root bound. So I thought it would have a whole lot of roots. So ironically, the one time I go to wire it in, it doesn't have many roots. So I don't know if my wires are even really catching anything, but that's okay. I just brought all my trees in for the fall, so this will be in the grow tent. Pretty controlled environment with no wind. Use a couple of rocks just to anchor down the aerial roots where they're at. Pour in some soil. Go give it a good rinse here in a second. I will say again about Scheffleras, just with my experience with them, they're a lot of fun. They're very hardy. We went over some of the pros and cons and how tough they are and how they can endure a lot of different types of environments, low light, full light, outside in the full sun, as long as it's not cold. So I would say, as far as what stage this one is in, it's not necessarily in development still. I would say somewhere in between development and refinement. It's at a stage where I don't want it in a training pot. I think deserves a little better than that. But it's not in a state of, just refining where I know exactly what the style is and what I'm going for. I'm still sort of figuring it out. We're trying different things, and so far I like this better than what it was. That leaning raft style, I didn't really like. I don't even know if I would have called it raft, because typically a raft style kind of curves more like a rainbow, and that one had almost like the opposite effect. It curved more like I don't know, the bottom of a circle or something, opposite, inverted rainbow. So I thoroughly rinsed it out, watered it down. That kind of bonded the soil a little bit more together. Just looking for any more spots, any more branches or leaves that are sort of getting in the way. I do end up noticing a spot here. There's a branch on the right side as you're looking straight at it. Right there. So I guess technically on the left side at this view, but a right side from the front view, right here. So it's growing back inward. Not sure how I didn't notice that earlier. So I'm just gonna take that part out. And there's other refinement that I could do, but I don't want to. I want to keep it kind of as is and let it get healthy. So that's it. That's my oldest Schefflera. I like it much better than what it was before. So please like and subscribe if you haven't yet. Leave me some comments with any of your ups and downs and experiences with Schefflera. Would love to hear it. And thanks for watching. Have a good rest of your day, everybody.